Okay, today we are playing a game on King's Row. We are playing Junkrat on attack and Widowmaker on defense, and the average SR of this game was roughly 2,300 SR. Didn't push tab at a convenient time for us to look at their team. I'll just tell you what it is right now. We've got Junkrat, obviously, Soldier 76, Roadhog, Winston, Mercy, Lucio. So we've got kind of a dive comp. We've got like a dive comp that kind of chickened out halfway through. But we've got close to a dive comp. Pretty good good team to have with Junkrat, actually, because one of the main issues Junkrat has is that he has a lot of trouble actually confirming kills. Like, he does a lot of area damage, but actually finishing people off, Junkrat can struggle with. So we've got, like, we're gonna have, like, a Winston and a Soldier and a Roadhog running around in there, or Lucio as well. Hopefully they can clean up the kills that we've been just doing a bunch of damage to. So we're firing down here. This is, of course, not the most productive place for Junkrat to be, but we're going upstairs, up onto the high ground. High ground is the best ground. As Master Obi-Wan Kenobi taught us, it's really overpowered. Now, this is like the advantage Junkrat has, where you can look at the fire at the enemy team without actually looking at the enemy team. That's like the thing he has over Farah. He doesn't need to be in direct line of sight. But just like peek over the corner so that you know roughly where the enemy team is, so that you know roughly where to aim at. Because we're just kind of firing blindly into the area right now, just to like try and figure out where they are. But this is like how you play Junkrat, basically, where you go up onto the high ground and you just start shelling the area. But we don't really know what we're aiming at right now. We're hitting something, so that's like the important thing. We actually kill Soldier and a Torbjorn turret, so that's cool. But like, we didn't even know they had a Torbjorn, actually. Just like peek over, see where everything is, and like, you can usually just start firing at them directly rather than having to do the awkward geometry, and then you can fall back and do the geometry if you have to. But like, just like, look over. And if you can just take direct shots at someone, that's usually better, because then you don't have to worry about like, the physics engine taking care of half of it, right? So we've taken this area, our team went in, did the diving, we cleaned up all the kills, everything's going great, and this is like how you play Junkrat. We're up on the high ground, shelling in the area, all fine, all good. Capturing the point, just sort of shelling in the general area, all good. Nitpicky thing, try not to stand perfectly still when you're firing at someone. Or just firing in general. Yeah, like, you're really far away, and it's really unlikely that someone is gonna come in and get you, but, like, be moving around just a little bit, just in case. Also, don't, like, this is something I noticed across the game, you tend to just, like, pick a spot and keep firing at the same spot over and over again. Just, like, move it around a little bit, because if you just keep firing at the same place, it's gonna land in mostly the same place. The physics engine is gonna, like, make it move in a slightly different place, but you're gonna be firing in mostly the same area. And if someone sees that, they're just going to be like, oh, I'm not going to go there. But if you, like, vary it up a little bit, it's harder for them to dodge because it's more unpredictable where your bomb is actually going to go. You know, because they aren't all just going in the same set path. But we're up on the high ground right now, firing into the area, doing a bunch of damage. We got our tire. We're going to go over here and use the tire. This is a really good way to send the tire down, send it round the back, and don't quite kill the Soldier. Unfortunate. That's like the best place you can send the tire down, though, because it's just, there's basically no time the enemy team actually gets to see the tire, which is good for them. Which is good for you, rather. Not good for them, it's terrible for them, because then they have to basically destroy it, like, with a really thin window. So we're coming over here now, phased into the geometry a little bit, and we're coming around here. This is, like, an unnecessary maneuver, because we're not really doing anything back here. And one of the things about Junkrat is that he's one of the best heroes in the game at breaking a Reinhardt's barrier. Like, you can break a Reinhardt's barrier really quickly, and we've got a Roadhog and a Soldier who are both also really good at destroying Reinhardt's barrier. So, rather than doing this cute flanking thing that we're doing right now, where we're not really getting very much done, we could just be over at the front line, or, well, near the front line, not on the front line, obviously, but near, like, doing damage to their front line, basically making their tanks' lives difficult. Rather than coming around the back here and not really doing that much. Also, nitpicky thing, we don't have our trap down right now. Just, like, have a trap somewhere. Just, like, it's better to have it down than not down, usually. The mine has, like, utility outside of just being a trap, so you don't want to use that quite so liberally sometimes, but, like, you know, we've had opportunities to just put a trap down somewhere, and that's usually better than not having a trap down. Right now, we're trying to do some cute geometry. You can just fire directly at these people. You don't need to do this cute geometry stuff right now. You could just fire it straight at them. And also, the position we're in right now, it would be really easy for, like, if we get a direct hit on this Zenyatta, we can just throw our mine straight at him and then kill him, because if you get a direct hit on a 200 HP hero, you will just execute them with the mine. Or close to, because the mine does 120 damage, I'm pretty sure, point blank. Close to that. So, like, we could just fire directly at the Zen, and then just throw the mine at him, and we'd kill him. Rather than doing all this geometry stuff. Also, again, like, put a trap down somewhere, you know, we've had a pretty big opportunity to put a trap down somewhere, and we haven't done it. We throw down one down there, and it immediately gets broken. We're in a pretty awkward spot here, where it's going to be really easy for us to get killed if they decide to come in here, and we can't really do too much in here. I'd rather if we just, like, retreat around the back and try to regroup with our team. We're going around the back again to do some, flanking stuff. We have an opportunity to kill the Mercy here. We could just throw the mine at her right there. Because, again, the thing with Junkrat is that he has trouble actually confirming kills. Like, as soon as you get a direct hit on this Mercy, just throw the mine at her. The mine is a lot easier to kill people with than just your grenades, because you can detonate it in the arc freely, rather than it having to hit them or explode. So, as soon as you direct hit that Mercy, or closer, just throw the mine at her and you'd kill her. Which is pretty good. Mercy, pretty high priority target. In general, though, we don't need to be doing this much flanking stuff. We could just be, like, near our front line, doing damage to their front line, doing a bunch of just damage to the Reinhardt shield, and area damage just to everybody near the front. And, you know, we got a Soldier, a Roadhog, they're really good at picking people off, that kind of thing. We don't need to be doing all this flanking stuff that we're doing, really. We could just be making it really, really hard for their Reinhardt to actually stand on the payload. So we got the tire, we're sending it around the back again. Again, really hard for them to actually get it this way. They get, like, no time to look at the tire, and bam. Doesn't get very many people. Looks like the Reinhardt turns just in time, or was a little bit too far away. Unfortunate, but we got the Zenyatta, so that's cool. And now we're just doing a lot of damage over in the area. We decided to give up on that and go around the edge again. This is like a long period of time we're not actually doing anything. Like, there's still a team fight over there. We don't really need to come all the way over here. We could just be firing from the same position we were on and start advancing forward and, like, do ping-ponging around the wall if we really have to. But, like, this really long flanking route, we don't need to do this. Like, we could just be doing damage to them from, like, the entire time rather than coming around the edge here. Because, like, most of the team fights actually happened by the time we even get into this position. So it's not really worth all the effort it took to get round here. But it's still all going pretty well. Our team's going in. We're shelling into the area, making it difficult for them to walk back up. Again, we've got no trap on the ground for a pretty long period of time. We could just throw that down somewhere. Better to have a trap somewhere than nowhere. Soldier's using his tack visor. We just sneak back in the corner and start doing this. That's fine. Pop out. Miss the mine. Unfortunate. But we got 2 direct hits on him. Feels bad for Soldier. And this fight, honestly, is going a lot better than it looked like it would right at the start, since we lost, like, half our team. Careful when you're, like, advanced. I just realized also the color is going to look really weird to a lot of people. The person that gave me let me use this replay is colorblind, so that's why all the colors are slightly unusual. I'm also colorblind. Different type of colorblindness, but I'm also colorblind, but that's why everything looks a little bit weird. When you're in, like, front of a Reinhardt like this, just, like, put your trap down, because, like, you're kind of walking into the Reinhardt, and I know how Reinhardt players are. They like to try and charge the person that's walking towards them. Just, like, put the trap in your path, just in case, because, like, right there, Reinhardt is probably thinking about charging you, and if you have to just throw the trap out on reaction, it's not actually going to get him. But then we got Earth Shattered, we got knocked down, feels bad, man. You know, we don't have a Reinhardt, so it's gonna be pretty scary for that. It's gonna be pretty scary walking into their Reinhardt, since we don't have one. Reinhardt, interesting case. The only thing that counters Reinhardt really is Reinhardt, but their Reinhardt is changed off Reinhardt, so we don't have to worry about it anymore. Now they have an Orisa, who is not very close at all, actually. So we almost have our tire again. Our team's reinforcing right now, so we're just trying to do a little bit of chip damage, you know, whatever. Bonked off the ceiling a little bit, that's unfortunate. You know, we're not really hitting anybody. Don't expect... Again, just, like, vary the arc up a little bit. Just, like, wiggle back and forth a little bit, because that's not really doing too much. Like, I mean... It's probably not anyway, but, like, just vary the pattern up a little bit, rather than just constantly shelling the same exact spot over and over again. So, we've killed 2 people. We're gonna send the tire in. We know they have a Mercy, so Mercy is a pretty high priority to try and find if we can with the tire. We've seen the tether, we're coming down. Tether was attached to the soldier, we didn't get the mercy, feels bad. Their mercy is now going to come in and res somebody. Feels bad, but at the same time, things are not going too well for them. Yeah, you know, don't stand perfectly still when you're shooting is good advice. Like, you're not very likely to get punished for it in this position, but, like, just, it's bad habit. Don't stand perfectly still. So the position we're in right now, it's pretty easy for us to actually get flanked if they come in over, like, from this direction, over here. So you want to put a trap down there as quickly as possible, because it's really easy for somebody to just be like, I'm gonna go around this way, and then they come up on the staircase and we never actually get to see them coming. So we want to put the trap down over there as quickly as possible, or just be listening really closely, that's the other option, but like... And again, don't stand perfectly still, vary up the pattern a little bit, rather than just constantly shelling the same exact area over and over again. I mean, not the same, it's not gonna be the same exact area because of the physics engine, but like, you know, vary it up a little bit, be a bit more unpredictable. Okay, you don't need to be firing, like, straight up to hit people right here. You could just be, like, firing more directly at them. Yeah, Junkrat, like, it's cool that Junkrat can do indirect fire, but if you have the opportunity to shoot directly at someone, that's usually better than just, like, trying to do the geometry. So we tried to throw out the bomb, probably to try and get the tire as it came around the corner. Didn't happen. Feels bad. Team's dead. We've almost got our tire. We managed to pick off their Zenyatta. That's pretty cool. Again, don't stand perfectly still. And, oh, they popped out from the side, and we got juggled by their Reinhardt and killed. Feels bad, man. Again, just, like, put the trap over there. We've been sitting on our trap cooldown for a while. We usually want to have a trap down, because it's better out than not out, usually. Again, the mine has, like, utility outside of being a trap, so that one you don't put down as liberally, necessarily, but, like, the trap, definitely. So we could probably just use the tire here, honestly, rather than continuing to do the geometry, but now Zenyatta's using Transcendence. Cool thing about the tire, it doesn't give a shit, and we managed to kill their Mercy while Transcendence is still happening, so that's great. Even though the tire only kills one person, it was a really high priority target, so that's cool. And we've managed to pick off their soldier. Again, we're playing I almost said we're playing Roadhog. We're playing Junkrat as you play Junkrat. We're sitting up on the high ground, basically making it life difficult for the enemy team. And our team is, like, doing pretty well on cleaning people up so far. Reaper got snared on our trap, sucks to be him. But he managed to get away. We're kind of, like, losing a bunch of people right now. We're shelling into the area, but, like, you know, it's difficult for, like, Junkrat to actually secure kills, so we're just, like, doing a bunch of AoE damage, pretty much. Now we've ended up in an awkward position where our team has died, and we are on the wrong side of the enemy team right now. Honestly, the play right now is probably just jump off the edge into the pit right next to you, because, like, yeah, you can sit around up here and try to do damage as Junkrat, but, like, they are gonna try and get you off of here as quickly as possible, because our team is dead and reinforcing, you're up here by yourself. They have a D.Va as well now, so the D.Va's gonna come up here soon and try to get us. Like, if you just jump off the pit, you don't give them any ult charge, that's a big thing, but you get to, like, regroup with your team faster, because you're most likely gonna die in this position, because you're on the wrong side of the enemy team. It's usually better to just die as quickly as possible, so that you can actually regroup with your team and get a better push going, than just sort of belaboring the point, really. Other option, you could stop firing for a while, and basically wait for your team to start coming back around, and then start firing, and just hope they don't notice. But, see, we've died anyway. Now our team is reaching the front line again, but we're dead. You know, if we just tried to die faster or just get out, you know, it could be better. Because now they're fighting up there without us. And we have our ultimate, so that really sucks. You don't want to be on the wrong side. You don't want to be on the opposite side of the enemy team to your team. So we're sending the tire in now. A bit more awkward in this area to get a good path going, but we're going to go up and around. Wait around, see what we can get, going in, and bam, we managed to get 3 people, even though we didn't really know we were going to get the 3rd person. Hey, that's Junkrat's tire. So that's pretty cool. We haven't got very much time left, but we just got a pretty sick pick, so that's cool. And now we're going to push it in. We're coming around here to just try and get people who are reinforcing. That's great. We managed to pick off the Mercy right as she's coming out, and she was probably going to try and res, so that feels bad for her. So, now we sit and we shell this area for a really long time. Enemy team's probably not going to come out this doorway again, because half the team tried to come out this doorway when we were shelling it before, and one of them died, one of them almost died, and it was generally inconvenient for them. So they're probably going to try and avoid this doorway again, and we don't ever look over at the other doorway. Like, just be like, this is sort of ties in earlier when we were, like, not really looking at what we were trying to shell, we were just shelling the area. You gotta, like, look around more, you know, knowing where things are is pretty important. Don't just, like, fixate on the area you're shelling, like, look around more often as well, and don't just sort of fixate so much. Because, like, we're still shelling this doorway, like, it doesn't really get a whole lot done. They kind of just stop coming out of this doorway. And they just start coming out the other door, like, look over at the other doorway. Like, look over at the other doorway, because they aren't coming out this way. Mercy managed to res some people through the wall, so they managed to contest it again. That feels bad. We sort of ignore the Zenyatta right here, because there's a Zenyatta right here, low HP, and we kill him anyway, but we didn't really actively aim for him. And again, we could just be, like, doing more direct shots. The area we're in is a little bit awkward, because we can't really see very well, either. Because we can see this one doorway that we've been firing at the entire time really well, but we can't see, like, this whole area, which is where most of the fight's gonna be. Yeah, we can try and pick people coming off through this doorway, but if they come out the other doorway or a fight breaks out, we can't really see as well from over here. We have to, like, bounce off the wall and things like that instead. We could just, like, be standing over in the alleyway, like, firing into the area, and then, like, you could still fire over into these doorways from over in this area, but you'd also be able to see where a fight's breaking out, because there has been, like, a fight happening here this entire time, but we've been just fixating on this one doorway instead of, like, worrying more about the actual members of the fight. Just, like, look around more, you know, just, like, try and get more of a feel for things, you know. Don't just fixate on one area. So now we're gonna play Widowmaker. I'd actually prefer if the way we played these heroes was flipped around, because Widowmaker tends to be worse on defense than she is on attack. Because attackers tend to be coming in very quickly, like they tend to be getting boosted in by a Lucio, they're coming in with a Reinhardt shield. And Widowmaker tends to not have as many opportunities to actually pick people off. She has to get them as they're rushing through the doorway, usually. Whereas on attack, you have time to, like, sort of worm your way around and, like, pick defenders off who are just, like, out of position. Attack, it tends to be a bit more difficult because of the way, how quickly they're coming in and, like, with a barrier. And Junkrat, usually better on defense just because you can just sort of deny an area of access, right? Tying in with, like, Junkrat being really good at destroying barriers and things like that. So they are coming out with a Pharah and a Mercy. We're playing Widowmaker, so that's pretty good for us. We managed to pick off their Pharah right at the start, and I believe Pharah immediately changes to Widowmaker. Because we pushed, yep, immediately changed to Widowmaker. We see that, and we're like, oh fuck, better get out of the way of the church then. Defending on King's Row, also a little bit difficult for Widowmaker. Tends to be a little bit awkward for Soldier as well, just because there aren't so many long sightlines to take advantage of. Like, this is like the longest sightline we get for a while, really, and it's pretty awkward, right? Because there's this narrow window that we can actually see people from. If they come out here, we got, like, a little bit of a window to shoot at them, but it tends to be hard to get, like, good sightlines on defending on King's Row. Attacking, you've obviously got, like, the pulpit of the church and things like that. But, like, King's Row tends to be a bit difficult for Widowmaker to operate on because of, like, not so many long sightlines and, like, a lot of cover for the attacking team. So they have a Widowmaker. We're gonna try to get the Widowmaker. We died to the other Widowmaker. Feels bad. Yeah. I find it's usually best to not really try and interact with the other Widowmaker as much as possible. I've told this story before, but we had this thing in TF2. Which is, you know, comparable to Overwatch, where we had this thing called weighted companion snipers, which was a pun on the weighted companion cube. This mostly happened on 2 Fort. If you didn't play TF2, just Google 2 Fort and you'll see what I mean. Because what tended to happen was just the snipers for either team would be up on the balconies, looking over at each other, and they would only ever really try to kill the other sniper. Just, like, fixate on the other sniper. And that was why we called them weighted companion snipers, because they were there, but all they were really doing was interacting with each other. So basically all that happened was both teams were playing with a man down for the most part. So I find it tends to be better to not interact with the other Widowmaker as much as possible, just because it requires so very much attention from both of you that what tends to happen is just neither of you really do anything. If you're better than the other Widowmaker, because, like, we just got her there quite easily. But, like, if you're better than the other Widowmaker, then you know, by all means, but, like, it tends to be a little bit luck of the draw, especially if you and the Widowmaker are roughly even in skill. I find it's better to usually not deal with it as much as possible. So, they've gotten the first point really quickly. Feels pretty bad. This is a decent place for Widowmaker to be in because there's this giant sightline right here that we can use. We do have to be really careful about getting flanked, though. And like with the mine, there's like two trains of thought, really, with it, where some people like to use it as an alarm for, like, they're getting flanked. Other people prefer to just sort of, like, listen with surround sound headsets and use their mind to do damage to people. I find, like, if you're gonna, be in this general area, it's probably best to put it over in the alleyway on the left, because that's a pretty common route to try and flank somebody on. This isn't a very good place for us to be right now, because we've got, like, not a lot of room, really, to use, like, we haven't got a very good sight line down here. Oh god, excuse me. Yeah, the roof's a little bit scary, especially since we still think they have a Widowmaker. They don't anymore, but we think they still have a Widowmaker. But, like, down here, we're not really gonna get very much done. Also, not the best time to use your ultimate, really. Because of where the enemy team is right now. The enemy team, for the most part right now, is just going to be coming down the street with the payload, right? We've got a Tracer over here trying to flank us, but she just died anyway. So, but most of the team is going to be coming down the alleyway. Also, I apologize if you can't see, like, these drawings very clearly. I deliberately tried to pick a color that I think stands out to you, but I'm not 100% sure if it does. So, I apologize if you can't see it very clearly. But, like, for the most part, the enemy team is just going to be coming down the street, so we're not going to get that much use out of the infra site. Because we know where the entire enemy team is, basically. We're not going to pick people off as they're coming around the corner, which is, I mean, the main thing with infra site, right? As soon as you can see somebody coming around the corner, you get to know where they are. That's the cool thing about wall hacks. But you don't really benefit from it so much here, just because the enemy team is basically just coming down the street at you. So we throw the mine over there, we're gonna come back up here. Didn't really need to come out if I'm to nitpick, we didn't really need to come out the side and use the grappling hook, because the grappling hook is like how you get out of danger. Since we were inside the bar anyway, we could have just thrown the mine out into the alleyway and walked up the staircase and, like, gotten there roughly as quickly as doing this, but we would save the cooldown on the grappling hook if we end up in trouble. It's not gonna happen because, like, there's not very many things that are gonna threaten us, really, very quickly, but, like, you know, nitpicky thing, really. Because I'm not gonna talk about aim, you know. Obviously, when you play when you're watching a Widowmaker play, there is the elephant in the room that there's always gonna be aim better. Aim better is not helpful advice, so we're not really gonna talk about aim this entire time. Target prioritization thing here, you know, we're trying to shoot this Zarya. We could be trying to shoot at other people instead of the Zarya, because you don't want to be shooting at tanks. Like, you can try and ping this, Tracer. Widowmaker actually pretty good at killing Tracer, because you only have to hit her once, right? Which is usually an advantage. But, you don't want to fire at tanks as much as possible. Tracer's coming around, she's trying to flank us. Unfortunately, she manages to get to the, health kit. It's probably better to try and snipe the Tracer rather than killing her with the machine gun, because she's stepped on the mine, so she's taking damage from that. If you manage to ping her with the sniper rifle, even if it's not like a very good hit, if you ping her with the sniper rifle, she's probably gonna feel pressured enough to recall, if nothing else. Whereas with the machine gun, we have a pretty low chance of actually killing Tracer unless she really fucks up. So we're trying to pick people off again. We're playing Widowmaker, you know. Didn't really need to come back in and reload right there, you know, small nitpicky thing. We're really trying to wait to pick off this Mercy. Tracer coming around to try and get us again. Good use of the mine, and we're actually gonna kill the Tracer. Great, awesome. So attack visor's happening right now, that's pretty scary. We tried to kill him. Oh god, oh no, everything's going very terrible very quickly. But we managed to kill the soldier as well. Unfortunately, we missed the initial snipe on him, but it was a pretty, like, narrow area, so not too surprising at the same time. It did just get res behind us, so that's a little bit scary. We're trying to get healed by the Zenyatta. Zenyatta's not really looking, you know. Happens, basically. We're trying to find a health kit right now, seeing as we're pretty low HP. We finally got the Harmony Orb, so that's cool. Don't really want to hang out down here. We've got our grappling hook. We could just go up onto the rafters above us right now. You know, with high ground, best ground in general. As Master Obi-Wan Kenobi taught us, it's really fucking overpowered. Widowmaker, in particular, we don't want to be firing on ground level, basically ever, because it's just making life slightly more difficult for us. We want to be on high ground, like, basically, like, 100% of the time. Obviously, you're not going to be able to 100% of the time, but, like, as close to. So this is why, like, this map is awkward, because, like, now we really see the issue with Widowmaker, where, like, the enemy team has a Reinhardt on this map. It's gonna be really hard for us to actually shoot people, because this is, like, the best line of sight we've got, but they're just funneling down this channel behind a Reinhardt shield, so it's gonna be pretty difficult for us to, pick people off. Advice when you're playing against a Reinhardt, right? Aim as if his shield isn't there. And I don't mean, like, ignore the shield necessarily, which is how some people will take that. What I mean is, like, the barrier is up. Instead of aiming just at the barrier, if you see, like, because, like, we see a little bit of it here. Instead of just, like, aiming at the barrier, aim at, like, the Zenyatta behind the barrier, and basically just wait, because the Reinhardt's gonna fire strike sooner or later. Just, like, keep hovering over a person behind the barrier and wait for him to fire strike. As long as you're waiting for it, it'll be pretty easy to react to it, and then you can just pick somebody off as soon as he fire strikes. You can punish a Reinhardt in this position quite easily as Widowmaker if you're just, like, waiting for the fire strike, because you can just pick off squishy people who are like, I'm gonna stand behind Reinhardt, that's the safe place, and then he's like, I gotta charge up my ult, though. So we've got our ult built up again. It's gonna, we use it here. It's not really the most helpful place still, because they're just still coming down this main channel, right? And they're behind a Reinhardt's barrier. So we're not really getting too much benefit off the infra site right here. We're trying to use it to try and kill this soldier right now, but, like, we could do better than this, honestly. Again, like, Widowmaker on defense has trouble on King's Row, I find, because of, like, this issue we're having right here. Also, We've got our mine on cooldown for a really long time. Again, it's the kind of thing that's just better to have it out. It doesn't really have any utility attached to it aside from seeing if somebody's coming up on the flank. Just, like, have it somewhere, you know, just, like, put it out there. Just, like, throw it into the Reinhardt shield if you, like, just throw it into people. You know, it usually gets them and does some damage. Just, like, don't sit on the cooldown. If you got cooldowns up and you can use it, just use it. So we've picked off their, Hanzo, who was the Pharah and the Widowmaker, and the Tracer, I'm pretty sure. So this person, you know, we're bullying them quite a lot through this game. Widowmaker, you do have, like, the advantage of being able to sometimes just tilt the enemy. If you, like, focus one person really hard, they start to feel really targeted and tilted about it. So that's an advantage Widowmaker can have sometimes. You are, of course, probably going to tilt your own team as well, which is, you know. But as long as you can play your hero, who the fuck cares, right? As long as you are playing your hero well, like, doesn't really matter. So, yeah, we got our mine. Throw that mine somewhere. You know, just throw it somewhere. Don't be sitting on it. Now we're throwing it over there. It's landed, like, up here, which is a little bit unlikely to get anybody unless they have a Genji. They haven't had a Genji this whole time. I guess Hanzo could come up there as well. It'd be, like, probably better just, like, over in this area, over here. I don't know why I'm pointing with the cursor, like, over in this area, rather than over here, because more people are likely to come over this way than they are over here. So, we've almost got Infrasight again. This actually has a chance to be advantageous to us now, because we are also trying to kill their Hanzo as much as possible as well. And that's exactly why we're using it right now, to try and get this Hanzo. We aren't getting the Hanzo. It feels bad, happens. Mercy flies out to the Hanzo and just in time to see him get sniped, and she's probably like, oh fuck. You know, don't quite get the Mercy, feels bad, man. Just, like, chuck your mine into that room, honestly, because that's, like, where the enemy team is starting to collect at this point. We throw it back there to try and get the Mercy. This is where we're going to start to have a lot of trouble as Widowmaker. We're bullying the Zenyatta. Zenyatta's really upset about that one. I remember the good old days when Zenyatta used to only have 150 hit points, and you used to be able to just shoot him with a fully charged shot anywhere in his giant cubed body, and you'd kill him. Oh, good old days. Unless you were playing Zenyatta. That was the point in time where Zenyatta was the worst hero in the game, oddly enough. And then they fixed that issue, thank goodness. This is where we're going to have trouble as Widowmaker, though, because we're starting to lose ground right now, and unless we pick off a bunch of people back to back to back, like, it's going to be hard for us to have a lot of presence and slow these people down. We're trying to get the Mercy right now. We didn't get the Mercy, unfortunate. This is not the best place to really be because the enemy team is, like, collected mostly underneath us, so we're having to, like, do this awkward, like, point over the edge stuff. Be better if we could stand over on the other side, but again, we don't have, like, great places to stand on this map in general for defense. And our team, like, we're losing him again. We're gonna bully the Zenyatta again. He's upset about that one. Now we're trying to kill the Zarya. Again, if you can avoid shooting at the tanks, and then we just get sniped by the other Widowmaker, because it was Whale, again. We didn't know they were coming. They managed to pick us off while we were trying to snipe the tank. Unfortunate. Didn't see it coming. Again, just, like, move back and forth a little bit more, though. Even as Widowmaker, you're trying to line up these really deliberate shots. Standing perfectly still is generally still inadvisable. For Junkrat, something to work on, like, try to be just, like, more involved. Like, when you're positioning, just, like, your positioning is fine, but, like, look where you've got to fight, like, look before you start shelling an area, figure out where you want to be putting damage, because we, like, never even really figured out they had the Torbjorn at the start, and that's, like, priority number 1 for a Junkrat, right? Just, like, look at the fight more, just try to get, like, figure out where people are, and where you actually need to be shelling, and try to, like, focus your shelling in that area. Don't try to do so much flanking stuff, because, like, yeah, you know, it's great if it works out, but, like, one of the best things about Junkrat is just that he will fucking tear through a Reinhardt shield, especially if he's got, like, a soldier and a Roadhog on his team, which you more often than not are going to, because they're really popular heroes. Like, you can make a Reinhardt's life really fucking difficult, especially if it's a map like, Anubis or Hanamura, where the Reinhardt has to basically walk through this area. You can just make his life so difficult because you're just going to chew through his shield so quickly. Don't worry so much necessarily about, like, getting around people and doing damage to their backline. Shell, like, Reinhardt's shield as much as possible as well, and just try to do, like, a bunch of damage. It's hard for Junkrat to confirm kills in general. You're basically looking to just do as much damage as possible, and then your heroes with more direct damage are gonna pick off the people that you've done damage to. Because Junkrat does a fucking lot of damage, right? Like, he does do a lot of damage, it's just inconsistent damage, so it's hard to actually get kills. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Junkrat. Like, does, you know, and also, like, don't fixate so much on, like, a general, like, one area. Try to, like, again, like, look at the fight, see what's going on. Just try to fire directly at people if you can, rather than doing the geometry thing. But, like, just try to be more involved in the fights, basically. Rather than doing all this, like, indirect shelling and, like, trying to flank stuff. Just, like, do damage. That's what you're trying to do as Junkrat. You're trying to just do as much damage to as many people as possible. Widowmaker, like, you know, the thing is with Widowmaker is it's usually just aim better. There tends to be not so many glaring things. Use your mine, like, more often, because there's a lot of times where we don't have a mine down and we're just sort of sitting on the cooldown. Try not to, like, we're not really, like, try not to kill, if there's somebody other than a tank you can be firing at, you usually want to be trying to fire at them. Because the thing with Widowmaker is she can kill people in one shot, right? Like, tanks, they're gonna take a couple shots. So if you can fire at somebody other than a tank, reasonably fire at them instead of the tank. For the most part, it was, like, fine, though. The thing is, like, King's Row is difficult to play Widowmaker on defense because it's very difficult to use the sight lines because there aren't that many of them. Infrasight, like, the thing is with Infrasight is that if the enemy is going to be moving through, like, open areas where they're basically you're going to see them most, if not all of the time, you don't want to use Infrasight because you're not gaining anything off of it. Because the advantage is you can see people through walls and you can just, like, poke out, shoot somebody, or as they're coming around a corner, you just hover and shoot them as they come around the corner. You know? But if they're just coming, like, down the channel in King's Row, you're going to see them, like, the whole time, and they're going to be behind a Reinhardt shield. So it's going to be difficult. You know, if there's a Reinhardt and they're coming down, like, an area that you can't really get around the Reinhardt, just, like, focus on the person, like, aim at a person behind the shield and just wait to punish the Reinhardt for taking the shield down. Because he's going to take it down sooner or later for one reason or another. Either it's breaking, he's going to fire strike, he's going to try and charge, and then as soon as it comes down, bang, you just kill the person, and you punish the Reinhardt for that. That's kind of it. Like, it's difficult to give advice for Widowmaker because a lot of it does tend to come down to aim better. You can try and, like, get better at, like, the hook shot, like, float through the air and shoot people, because you can just, like, hook shot up, and as you're falling, shoot over the Reinhardt's barrier, right? That's another way you can get around a Reinhardt's barrier, and that actually, like, becomes important if you want to play Widowmaker in, like, really, really high SRs, because people are better at, like, grouping up, so you have to, like, do that more often to get around Reinhardt's and things like that. You know, just, like, use your mind more. Try to punish the Reinhardt if you can't get around the Reinhardt. Don't use Infrasight if they're coming down areas you can basically see, and those, that's like the main thing. All in all, pretty good, honestly. Like, the Junkrat, your positioning is fine. Just, like, try to be more actively engaged in the fights. Don't be afraid to use your mind to execute people, traps out, that kind of thing. You know, little things, basically. So, anyway. Thank you very much for watching, if you did. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer, and I hope you found the video helpful.